What is up, everyone, and welcome to Now, Next, Never, our show where we talk about news that's happening now, happening next, and what may never happen in the world of investing, stocks, crypto, NFTs, and so much more. I'm Nicole Casperson, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Zaid Admani in Houston and Delana Saparu out there in New York. What's up, guys?
Yo, what's up, everybody? What's up, Nicole? What's up, Delano? Well, we got a great show today. We're going to be looking at GameStop making Bed Bath & Beyond hotter than Halo. Amex, Visa, and Mastercard have declined Russia. UFC locks in submission on NFTs. And should banks dwell on Zelle? Delano?
Hold on, Zay, don't get into it just yet. Hey everyone, we're so glad you're here with us to unpack what all this means for you and your money. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you know every time we're going live. I don't think we should wait anymore. Let's get into it.
All right, guys, I am extra hyped today because it is International Women's Day. So shout out to all my ladies out there crushing it, killing it in the game, looking out for their finances, paying attention to their financial news, with us. So yeah, be sure to check out some, fun hashtags on social media, hashtag breaking bias, and all the fun events that are happening for International Women's Day, all right?
Shout out.
Shout out to
the
my mom.
ladies. And thanks, Mom. Yes, shout out to all the moms out there. All right, shall we get started on the stories?
Let's. So Bed Bath & Beyond is making the bedrock and shares are mooning, folks. You guys won't believe why, or maybe you will. So Ryan Cohen, I'm not sure if you guys remember him, but he's the co-founder of Chewy, as well as the chairman of GameStop. And he just unveiled a nearly 10% stake in Bed Bath & Beyond. This is making the internet go nuts. A lot of the crowd in the Wall Street Bets forums are going nuts. The degenerate crowd is also going nuts. But I think a lot of this news has to do with, back to the old adage of, fundamentals versus crowd investing, social investing, and where we see those things, right? So the older generation talks about, boomers, where they talk about fundamentals, price to earnings, valuations. Do those things even matter anymore? I'm gonna kick it to you guys. What do you guys think?
Delano, before we move on, can you give us a refresher on what the price to earnings or PE ratio even means? I mean, I think I understand the gist of it, but I could always use a refresher.
Of course. So the price to earning helps you compare the price of a company's stock to the earnings that it generates, right? And it's a valuation metric that's used to understand if the stock is overvalued or undervalued based on your subjective look, all right, of the analysis of it, right? And we're seeing that a lot of stocks have actually been potentially overvalued, right? So that's why we're seeing a little bit of that pullback in the price to earnings chart. People have been screaming that you guys are paying too much for stocks, for growth stocks, all these things that are going to come crashing down. Are they right? I don't know, but the chart seems to say that things have been pulled back a little bit. What do you guys think about, this move in Bed Bath & Beyond?
The PE ratio is one of those things that I think everyone ignored for the past few months, and I think you're right, starting to become somewhat relevant again. Bed Bath & Beyond is like an OG meme stock, right? Like the meme stock frenzy that started at January 2020, where people were just buying up stocks like GameStop, AMC, just because of the hype that it was generating on Reddit and Twitter. And Bed Bath & Beyond was one of those stocks. And the guy who kind of started the GameStop meme stock trend was Ryan Cohen, who came in to the GameStop and kind of took the stock from $4 when he kind of took over to $100 what it is today. And I don't know if he can do it again. Like a hot take, like he did it with GameStop, cool, but like can he do it again with Bed Bath & Beyond? I know there's some potential with this company, but it'll be interesting to see if he can work his magic twice. And if he does, he's going to be a legend.
He just might be a legend, right? If Ryan Cohen could do it with GameStop, why not do it with Bed Bath & Beyond? If anything, this shows us that meme stocks are not a one-time situation. This is not a one-time phenomenon. This is something that lends itself to, culture and the future of investing strategies. You said go with fundamentals. Yeah, pretty sure that the younger investors are throwing fundamentals out the window and just following the influencers and the people in the world that are, rich and enticing to follow and copying kind of their trades and that type of thing. This is the new culture of investing, and people follow people, not institutions, even with their investing strategies. Yeah, to the moon. If Elon Musk tweets something like "hold the bag for X," I guarantee you it'll happen again. People love and adore him, right? Like people follow these people to the moon, and they're obsessed with these meme stocks, and so I don't think this is going away anytime soon.
I am curious. Do you guys think that Ryan Cohen is specifically targeting Bed Bath & Beyond because he thinks he can save the business or the business has potential, or do you think it's a pure meme stock play for him because he's Bed Bath & Beyond was getting a lot of interest from like the Reddit crowd and the internet crowd. Let me go try to do that just because it makes for a good story.
No, I think he's actually trying to save the business. One thing he did is he sent a letter to the management and pretty much said, these are the things that I think should be done to help generate more earnings for shareholders, to help spur the business for more growth. So a lot of things with the social investing, craze happen is that people were doing a lot of diligence. It was kind of crazy to see some of those Reddit forums were so in depth with a lot of diligence on things that they were seeing in movie theaters and different areas of theaters open up with a heat censored map. It was really crazy to see. So I do think people actually are trying to look and find their analysis on how these companies and businesses can get better and implementing those things to get better.
Yeah, there might be. I mean, I agree. I think he's probably, wanting to help the business. Sure. I also think that, is there some fun in knowing what type of power he has over the stock market and the ability to actually save a business? I can only imagine he feels like a little bit of a god complex after what happened with GameStop and all of the craziness that happened, right? He might just be like, it's been a year, guys. Let's have some fun.
Again, if he can do it again, he will be he'll be really rich, richer than he is today, and he'll also be an internet legend.
Too much power. Too much power for one person.
We'll see if he can turn it around. A lot of people are going to be watching this closely, though, especially on Wall Street Bets.
All right, let's move on.
All right, yes, moving on. So, Zelle, which is a popular money transfer platform, which is integrated into big banks, is the latest payment app to deal with fraud. Zelle has facilitated $490 billion in transfer in last year, which is double the rival Venmo. So, what's really interesting about this is the New York Times reported some examples of customers who lost like $500 to a scammer that was pretending to be a Wells Fargo official through Zelle. And Wells Fargo is saying that the payment wasn't fraudulent since it was authorized by the user, despite being tricked into the transfer. Basically, since the user pressed that I authorize button, Wells Fargo and any other big bank is relieved from actually giving a refund. I have a lot of hot takes on this. I mean, this to me is like big banks doing what they usually do and just, not helping consumers despite the fact that they have more than enough money to do it. I'll lead it to you guys first before I throw in some more spicy takes. Zaid, what's up?
I mean, look, I think I feel really bad for people that are getting scammed out of their money. I personally also made mistakes when it comes to like using these apps. Like, I'm pretty sure I Venmo'd the wrong person at least once, losing out, $100 or so. So it's not fun to deal with. I think a lot of this also comes down to like educating people. Like, hey, this app that you're using, it's irreversible. It has to be very clear, and we have to educate the people that are using these apps to kind of treat it like cash and to be very careful of any transactions that they send. So I do feel bad for people that are getting scammed, but people also need to kind of like be hyper aware of what they're doing and double and triple check before they send money out.
Yeah, Nicole, we talked about this earlier. As my sister, we kind of had a deferring view, which hurts me to my core because one, I don't want people to be scammed, right? This is wrong. And two, I do think banks can do something for these people, right? They have more money than God, right? They should be able to help these people. But there's a certain point where we have to say, don't press send. Don't authorize these transactions unless you double, triple, and quadruple check. As a money manager, I moved a lot of money on behalf of my clients, not even myself. And I always make sure to double check where money's being wired, where it's being ACH, electronically sent. So that's one big thing I think. If you remember the scam, and this is so hurts me to say, the Nigerian prince scam, as a Nigerian-born person, they use that to hurt our culture. And now it's been shifted over to something else. That makes it look, are consumers just like too gullible? Or are we actually like paying attention, Nicole? What do you think on that?
Look, I have been hacked myself. I've had someone come up to me and on social media and act as someone that I would possibly know, someone that I could trust. They're so sophisticated today, guys. Like, we can't just be putting all of the responsibility into the hands of the consumer. Yes, do they need to understand fraud practices? Do they need to understand things like don't press a link from someone that you don't know, or don't follow something just because someone says that they're a bank official? Totally. However, at the end of the day, fraud is here, it's everywhere, it's always going to happen. But when your customers are being scammed by fake accounts pretending to be your bank, pretty sure that you need to have some sort of grounds for responsibility to step in. Like, come on, $500 to an everyday American, that is life or death sometimes. That means the lights stay on or not. Whereas $500 to a big bank, what is that even? Like, that's nothing. That's nothing. So like, help out. Like, help the situation. I understand that by federal law, it is technically not in your like jurisdiction to have to help your customers. But like, come on, do big banks not have a bad rep enough from like defrauding in the past? Like, just help out. Like, we're in a pandemic. Goodness.
I love you, Nicole. I will definitely help you out. But it's safe to say that a Tinder swindler, you would have thrown him to jail and thrown away the key, correct? Is that what you're saying here?
Yeah, I mean, agreed, but like, look at those poor women, right? Like, none of them are seeing their money back. The Tinder swindler is running around probably scamming more women despite a Netflix show happening. But like, yeah, I think, come on. We're just gonna...
I agree with you there.
Yeah, no, I'm not pro scam or anything, and I get your perspective, Nicole. Like that banks should maybe share some burden here. But again, scams have been happening since the beginning of time. This is like this is a scam in the 21st century. People just need to be more aware of what's happening. Just like understand how the app works. But again, if someone like me who's like been on the internet my entire life can get tricked, I do sympathize for like the 65-year-old who's like getting a very realistic text or email from like a banker or someone that claims to be like their bank, and they're sending them over a couple $100 or $500, and then they can't get their money back. I can sympathize with that, but we need to do a better job of educating our parents, of educating people that are using these apps, and to hopefully reduce some of these scams that are happening.
100.
All right, the last thing I'll say is that, this is going to lend itself to, I think that the younger generation is going to continue to kind of distrust the traditional financial systems and look more towards fintech as, viable solutions for handling and managing their savings, their checking, their wealth management, etc. So I'm bullish on the fintech industry for sure here.
We gotta be careful with that though, because like if we talk about like the future of fintech, which a lot of people think is crypto also has this problem of like, you send money from one wallet to another, and you mess up a character or you mess up the wrong address, like you're not getting your money back at all. So I think that even with like crypto, which is supposed to be the future of fintech, there's issues there. So this is going to be a problem even for the future.
All right, fine. I'll leave it at that. Okay, there's fraud everywhere, even in fintech, which I'm super interested in and optimistic about. But look, my call to the big banks is this. Pretty sure that you guys have enough money to be able to refund a couple people $500 here and there. So if they went through something a little traumatic, like a scam, think about it.
Totally, it'd be good PR as well.
Oh.
All right. Speaking of PR, let's talk about the UFC and NFTs. So the UFC is launching their own NFT collection, 100,000 highlights. It's gonna be very similar to how NBA Top Shot was, which kind of what like started this whole NFT craze. I think it was like last March of 2020. So the UFC is going to be releasing these highlights. It's going to be people are already super psyched about it. I think it's also doing records on this blockchain that they're using. But is this just a money grab by the UFC, or do you think that like this is going to lead to something interesting? Delano, what do you think?
I thought about this long and hard, Zay, and I'm bullish on the aspect of NFTs and sports, right? Because it makes sense. Collectibles are synonymous with what's going on in the NFT space is digital collectibles and the scarcity of that. And I think that makes sense. I don't totally think that the sports league have totally figured out. I have NBA Top Shops. Shout out to Tyler Hero. You're doing a lot better this year. 6th member of the year, possibly up for 6th player of the year award this year. But I think, my asset with his moment, his NBA Top Shot moment is actually down from when I purchased it. But I do think there's a play there. I don't think the sports leagues have totally figured out what it is, and I'm curious to hear what Nicole thinks on it.
Yeah, I may not know sports much, but I do know the sense of community that they bring. And in this case, I get wanting to, see your own favorite highlights. I could say the same about my favorite musician and wanting to watch, maybe a music video or like a live performance over and over again. So at the end of the day, NFTs create community. Yesterday, we were talking about how there's possibly an NFT bubble that's about to burst. And so, yeah, NFTs need to kind of find their footing in the world, and sports, entertainment, live industries that have, built their economics around live entertainment. I think that they're, in a smart place to leverage NFTs to kind of find a choose your own adventure type of realm for users and viewers, right, to decide how they want to consume that entertainment.
I mean, look, sports for NFTs makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of sense. Sports fans seem like the perfect kind of people to buy NFTs and to be into NFTs.
Yes.
But what doesn't make sense is the implementation, I think, right? I don't see the value in buying a $500 Alex Caruso dunk highlight. I don't understand why someone would do that people were actually doing when the NBA Top Shot hype was happening last year. So I don't fully understand that. But there is some utility that they can use with NFTs. Like, for example, Coachella just a few weeks ago was doing this thing where they were selling a lifetime access to Coachella for, if you bought this NFT, you had lifetime access. You wouldn't guess that, lifetime access to Coachella. And I think it ended up selling for $270,000. And they're also selling additional NFTs on top of it. So that kind of utility makes a lot of sense. So imagine if you could buy an NFT of your favorite sports team where you get seats, courtside seats, or really good seats, season tickets, maybe additional events where you can meet the athletes. There's definitely utility there, but buying highlights of like a random, Zion Williamson dunk, like I'm personally not willing to drop $2,000 to watch a windmill Zion Williamson dunk. As much as I like watching basketball, like that's not for me personally.
Zay, don't make fun of my purchasing decisions, all right, man? Maybe I want to see
fired.
it.
Shots fired.
Maybe I like Alex Caruso, the headband bandit, all right? He's coming up. He's going to get better from injury. And the Bulls are actually playing really, really well. But let's focus on what you're saying. I do agree. I think that we have to find a utility. I would much rather have, some sort of access to maybe meet the players, meet the team, get a little bit closer within the community to the sport or to the league based on having or being an NFT holder, rather than just having a moment that's like depreciated. I do think there's so much utility there, and people are still trying to figure it out.
And it doesn't even have to be for investment. I'm not even saying buy the NFT for investment. If you have utility, I think it'll naturally rise in value if people want that sort of access that that NFT will demand. So it's like, I'm very confident actually that these sports leagues will figure it out, and we're going to see NFTs that give you access and utility, but we're just not there yet.
I mean, look at the fan engagement. Look at you two. You guys are going back and forth with each other. All right.
Okay, well, let's do a quick takeaway. What's the quick takeaway for NFTs in sports?
Roger Goodell, give us a call. You did a great job with the Super Bowl halftime, but we can really help you when it comes to implementing these NFTs. I know the NFL is planning to do their partnership with Dapper, I'm hearing, so we can help you, Roger. Call us.
Nicole, what do you think?
Well, NFTs create community, and niche communities are huge right now, a huge place to make money, especially for, live industries that have thrived on live entertainment. So they're looking for more ways to kind of expand their wallet share in the world and increase profits. So might as well look to NFTs to really get that fan engagement and your super nodes in check. Look at you two. I'm still shocked at how much you guys are into it.
No, for sure. I'm really into it. So yeah, love it. I think that's enough NFT talk for today.
All right. So going into Russia's financial I/O, which is hurting, with companies like Visa, Mastercard, PayPal, Amex, and even some crypto exchanges blocking transactions from the country. This has mostly been for transactions that are happening internationally, either to or from Russia. Cards will still work in physical Russian stores and Russia-only online stores. This is kind of a sad thing, guys. Russian Twitch streamers are feeling victimized because these services are the only source of payment and income that they have. I know we've got a tweet here to show who's, someone that is directly impacted by PayPal's cutoff from Russia. And there's also some kind of, implementations of this is causing Russia to become more increasingly reliant on China. There's so many things here, but here's the tweet. This I think gives us in the US, who are so, emotional and just kind of nervous about the uncertainty around our own stock market. I think this gives us a little bit of a perspective and, privilege check, guys. Freaking out about our stock market, of course it makes sense. We all have to look towards our livelihoods, but think about the people in Russia, for example, that Twitch user. It's just it's sad, and we have to always be paying attention to what's going on in the rest of the world, even if we don't feel like it's directly impacting us right now in this moment. But it will. What happens to one of us happens to the best of us, is my opinion. But Zaid, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the way I see this is another way that the West and Western companies are using this as a form of financial warfare, right? We're cutting off Russia, pretty much cutting them off from the rest of the world's financial system. And, like you said, it's not really going to impact U.S. citizens unless you plan on traveling to Russia, which be safe if you do, but your Visa card is not going to work in Russia. But besides that, it's not really going to impact U.S. citizens. This is really going to be impacting Russians that were relying on PayPal for their income or relying on Visa for their income. But I do think in the long term, the way it could impact U.S. citizens is if other countries that aren't friendly with the United States decide to be less reliant on Visa and MasterCard for their payment systems, and they end up, moving away from them, that could potentially hurt Visa and MasterCard's business long term, which could, if you're a shareholder, could affect you long term. But as of right now, this move by Visa and Mastercard isn't affecting your pocket. It's affecting the livelihood of Russians.
Yeah, you're so right, Sadie Nicole. And I think, this is something that we obviously want to be on the right side of history here. This is obviously a conflict that is sad, and there's a lot of sad things going on. And I took it, Nicole, from the perspective of like, what is the decision that the companies are making, right? Nicole, Zay just brought up a good point about companies that are, pulling out from Russia. What does that happen to the shareholders in the near term? And that's a decision I think they're weighing, is like that moral and ethical right thing to do versus potentially, the business aspect of the business strategy and what that means in the short term and the long term. Because I think the companies that do pull out and do get away from dealing with Russia will actually get a lot of, positive and tangible, brand boosts from doing the right thing. But they're weighing that decision in the short term, and I think it's a really big decision. The smart thing to do is to make sure you're on the right side of that moral, ethical compass.
Yeah, I like that you guys are looking at it in such a, long-term view, right? Because you're right, companies are stuck in a really hard place. They have to do what's best, not just for the brand, but for people and for the geopolitical atmosphere. And I mean, I can't imagine being a leader in one of these big brands and having to make these really tough decisions. I think we'll have to keep looking at the crypto exchanges and seeing what ends up happening there, because I know those are ones that are, not as, they're saying no, right? They're saying no to Ukraine, asking for more sanctions and stopping businesses there. So
I think Coinbase actually, I know this wasn't on our rundown, but I think Coinbase actually blocked the accounts of 250,000 Russian accounts. I don't know if you guys saw that. I saw that headline come through the news this morning. So it's, now they're even getting involved,
Yeah, I think there's just, that's a situation where the citizens could be helped with the advent of having their accounts open, right? If you're talking about someone that's using cryptocurrency in Russia, they're able to have that ability through the exchanges being able to open, through that ability to still transact peerlessly. So I think the exchanges being open and being able to transact globally is going to be able to help, all the citizens, especially the ones that are civilians just sitting in Russia or Ukraine that are not a part of the decision makings. So I think that's an important point for us to keep in mind as well.
We should save these thoughts because maybe we could use this story for tomorrow's show. So if you guys are interested in our thoughts, hit that subscribe button. Let's go.
Yeah, or comment and let us know. We want to keep up with the Russia-Ukraine situation. We want to help you understand how it impacts you, your finances, your future as well. And we want to be mindful of everyone in Russia and Ukraine and all of the country that is struggling right now. But we will be keeping up with this. So comment and let us know what you think. But yeah, well, that does it for our top stories. For right now, though, we are still going over Now, Next, and Never, where we talk about a few headlines that didn't quite make the top stories, but are worth paying attention to now, next, or really never. Delano, will you kick us off with Now?
Yes, this ties into what we were talking about a little bit before, but what's happening right now is Shell, which is an oil and gas company, they bought the oil dip, and now they're saying sorry. So Shell's apologized and said that it will stop buying Russian crude after a report that it purchased cargo of Russian crude at a steep discount. This is going back to what we're talking about, profit over ethics. They probably bought, I don't want to speculate because, they bought it at a very steep discount, and that's obviously good for their business, but it's not the right thing to do here. So they obviously apologized, and they actually did what's right, and so they're going to cut ties with doing business in Russia and buying some of those crude oils. So I think this is happening. This discussion is happening. We're having it right here live. You should please make sure you're commenting, telling us what should be done in the comments. But it's just something that's happening right now. It's a very, very important discussion.
Yeah, absolutely, and perfect thing to bring up right now. I think that this is only going to continue to trend on all of the platforms, so we'll be keeping up with that story as well. Zaid,
yeah,
what should folks pay attention to next?
Speaking of a company that isn't doing business in Russia anymore, Apple, for all my Apple stands that are watching right now, is doing their live event. I think it just wrapped up, and I'm pretty sure we're going to do better numbers than them. Their event just wrapped up, and I think they're releasing a new iPhone, cheap iPhone with 5G, which I'm not sure if whose 5G still works. Like mine doesn't work. And they're releasing a new iPad and some other cool, really expensive gadgets. I'm pretty sure that everyone's gonna, they're probably gonna sell a lot of them because they're Apple. But all those Apple stands right now, you guys already know what's up. We're gonna be going through all the forums and whatnot, kind of reading through all the details because I definitely will be doing that. So Apple products coming very soon.
Jade, if we do better numbers, I'm gonna buy you your favorite Apple product. That's a bet.
Better numbers. Maybe not today, but for the next one, we're gonna do better numbers.
Amen.
Zayd's like the guy that brings his like wife and kid to stand in line at like 3 a.m. to get the next Apple product. He's that kind of stan. Is it like that, Zayd?
Oh no. It's not that level. No. I'm not that crazy, but no.
All right, Zayd's wife who's watching, feel free to comment and let him know the truth. I'm going to head over to never for me. For me, it's Disney prices and line cutting fees. They are growing exponentially to a place where they're really not affordable to everyday Americans. I grew up going to Disneyland when it was affordable, like $50 a ticket, and I can't imagine what it's like attempting to go today. The last time I was in California, we opted for Universal Studios. It's a little bit cheaper, and they got Harry Potter World and some butterbeer, so that's really, really cool. But I think it's just a matter of time before Disneyland and its theme park kind of are only catered to the ultra wealthy, which isn't something I think that they want to do. I kind of thought that they wanted to be like a theme park for everyone, so and children all over the world. But anyways, off for Six Flags. They also have better rides.
I think you can make the case that maybe Disneyland was underpriced before. I don't know. That's the financial analyst in me just trying to be
Guys,
safe.
I've never gone. So tell me, what was the experience? I've never gone to Disneyland. How was it?
Well, the Pirates of the Caribbean ride is definitely worthy. It's a small world. It's tough. There's a lot of repetition there. But other than that, it is a magical place.
It is the most magical place and the happiest place in the world. What are we talking about here? I've been to Disneyland. I've been to Disney World. I went to Disneyland with my daughter. It is incredible. Yes, it was really, really expensive, and I probably won't be going back until she's a little bit older. But it is an experience like no other. And I'm not just saying this because I own Disney stock, sure, but I also am saying this
Disclosure.
disclosure, yes. But I also generally really enjoyed going to Disneyland and Disney World. And yeah, I mean, it's expensive, but I think it was worth it for me.
All right, I will. I'll leave it at that. Although I think I might be trickling my way to being more of a Universal Studios stan. But we can debate about that another time. That does it for our show today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It was a lot of fun. I had a ton to go over. And excited for tomorrow's show. So be sure to comment, like, subscribe, notifications. You want to keep up with us every single day. We go live every day. So see you all tomorrow.
See y'all.
Peace.
Bye.